Hello and greetings. This is our first episode of Poke Reviews,
Also known as the Poke Podcast.
the Poke Podcast. Today we watched the movie Pokemon I Choose You.
And I'm Joe. This is my co-host Dan.
And I'm Dan, and this is my sub-host Joe.
Ouch. No, you're the sub-host. The movie basically starts off with the first few episode stuff. Although it does squeeze in like the first 20 episodes into 10 minutes. I love that. Some of those episodes were a waste of time.
So,
I grew up with the original series, as did you, but some of those episodes were a waste of time. Jeez. How we spent our youth wasting time. Watching the basically 5 minutes in universe. Nowadays, we waste our time on social media, which just worsens our manic depressant natures.
Is there something you want to talk about?
No. Anyways.
After generally the retelling of the first episode in a much better fashion.
It's missing Misty.
Yeah. It's like after... Sure, there were corporate intercompany political reasons why they couldn't access Misty. I heard that it was because of the entire infighting between... Anyways.
Oh, you mean the shipping wars. They were trying to avoid that.
Yeah.
Because Misty versus Serena nonsense.
Yeah, so...
Serena got... her fan base got pretty weird eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying shipping wars are always toxic.
Yeah. And then...
Oh, you were trying to be subtle and not lean into the... yeah, okay, sorry. But I'm just going to say one quick complaint. I think that if you're not going to bring in Brock and Misty, the best companions for Ash, maybe bring Gary in as a rival turned companion in the movie. Where he starts off, for the first bit, 15 minutes a rival, but then becomes the companion at the 20 or 25 minute mark.
You then have a montage of over time where you have Ash and Pikachu doing stuff like astronomy. You have pretty much playing in the river and such things, which shows Ash in a much more competent light than in the anime.
Mm-hmm.
He actually knows stuff.
He does?
He doesn't need Missy to poke battle his poke battles.
For him, yeah, the backseat fight for him.
Yeah.
Just a quick note. My theory is that, real quick, Pikachu was abandoned by his previous trainer.
How so?
Well, Pikachu doesn't want to go back in his Pokeball. He's hostile to most humans, especially trainers, at first. And I think that he was abandoned, that he's pretty much, not exactly a Pichu, but he's basically a child. And that the previous trainer kept him in the ball and said, I'll come back, then ditched him.
And where the main reason why he's more comfortable with Oak is because...
Well, that's who he was ditched with.
And Oak was the only person who was stable enough to help him out.
But that the reason he doesn't want to go back into his Pokeball is because of his abandonment issues. And his trauma over the last time he went into the ball, his parent essentially abandoned him.
Which...
That's always how I've read it.
Which is a much more generous way than, the Pikachu's spoiled.
Well, he is.
He is.
But there's also, in the animated series, Ash did start spoiling him. And to the detriment of his relationship with his other Pokemon. To the point that he actually got a little neglectful and even abusive towards one or two. Notably, Charizard, or I should say when he became Charmeleon, kind of suffered a bit of Ash's wrath. In that Charmeleon expected the same perks now that he was the strongest. Okay, Pikachu doesn't have to go into the Pokeball. Neither do I. I'm number one right now, okay? Now, go back in there. And Charmeleon kind of took up the attitude, what was the point of me getting stronger? And bear in mind, Ash rejected Charmander when he became Charmeleon. Essentially, in the animated series, Charmeleon was screwed. If he stays weak, remember his trauma of Cross or Damien or whatever his name is. If he gets too strong, the more Ash rejects him. Like, he was screwed. I wish they took that arc and put it in this movie. Because Charizard is a complex character, or as complex as Pokemon got. Now, that said, his journey towards relearning compassion, wherein he nearly became a version of Cross in a way. And him learning compassion from Ash, and Ash learning to that he's kind of an ass, and he has to try to redeem himself. Where both of them have to redeem themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that in the actual series. That was something the series had over this. But the Orange Islands was like the best part of the animated series.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, now that's about the extent of my complaints. Now that is a major point, but I'm gonna put that aside.
Yeah. So after the montage, where
just one thing before the montage, if you don't mind. I totally think Ash and Pikachu were killed by those Spearows.
Yes, and it is strongly implied.
And Pikachu's suicide bombed, but the one who revived them was Ho-Oh.
Yes.
Who had a destiny for them. And it's not for some stupid fight at the end. That fight should never have taken place.
Mm-hmm. And he leaves the rainbow feather with Ash.
Yep.
And then you have the training, the montage. You have Ash catching Caterpie.
Him fighting other trainers.
You have Caterpie evolving into a Metapod and then a Butterfree during this montage.
Well, no, he evolves into Butterfree later. But
right.
Metapod or Butterfree is so irrelevant in this movie that could have been written out. Probably should have been written out to focus on Charmeleon instead.
And then he arrives at the one Pokemon Center.
Mom chews him out.
Yes. You have everyone in the Pokemon Center overhearing that.
Yeah, Team Rocket doesn't really probably appear in this film. I wish they did use them. I really like Jesse, James, and Meowth, but
they essentially played no role. You have and it's heard that Entei is in the area.
You have the dumb F who ends up using a metal type against a fire type. Then he has the temerity to say, "You two are amateurs." Hello, Buckaroo. You're the one who uses
Lucario. Lucario is a powerful Pokemon, but you're sending a fighting steel type against a fire type, one of its only true weaknesses.
Well, I'd argue Lucario is kind of an average Pokemon. Sorry to be a Debbie Downer.
Mm-hmm. It's not a Lycanroc, though.
No, that thing's just terrible from what I've heard.
I've heard. All right. They go after.
But there is an interesting moment with Entei where his gaze meets Ash's, and there's like this whole minute where they just stare, and it seems like something like clicks into Entei's mind, like, "Oh, you're Ho-Oh's avatar." Oh, okay. Like where it clicks into his head. You could see where he kind of just, okay. But he never really targets Ash. And his flames don't even singe Ash. He's just, he's basically telling the trainers, back off. I'm not some ponytail you can catch. But he's not out to hurt Ash. Now, I'd argue he was probably out to hurt the girl and the one dork with the glasses. But Ash, he cannot hurt. Because they share the same, I can't say creator, but the same dude who revived them. The same Jesus guy that revived them.
Yeah.
Or Jesus bird, I should say.
You have Ash and the girl challenge each other.
Then never fight.
Then they have to call off the fight after an Onyx runs after them.
And you've also got when it starts raining, the Charmander scene. Mm-hmm. Which, this was a good episode in the animated series. You've got the Charmander that was the same Charmander as the one Oak gave out in Palatown. That was always a fan theory with the animated series. This movie, they just decided... This is where I think the executive said, let's just do this. Like, or the director or something said, you know what, let's lean in. This fan theory, it's a good one. Let's do it.
And for it to be the third option Ash would have chosen,
Also,
can also play into that.
yeah, like my idea of having incorporated the animated series arc and him having been the third choice would have been an interesting route to go. We get Marshadow who shows up a few times over the course of the movie.
You've got
clearly scheming.
You've got the one scene in the cave where Entei comes along.
Yep.
And the scene is very much akin to a Miyazaki movie.
Okay, now we have to talk about the visuals. Now, the mountain visuals and the way they do a lot of the, I don't know what other term to use, but the magic of Ho-Oh and the way Entei is portrayed more than the other two, they come off as Japanese gods or kami from Spirited Away and Mononoke Hime. And there's just so much that is so Miyazaki with the visuals, with the mountains and the nature stuff. That's the best part of the movie. Now, that said, the gods are a very strong point. Now, they kind of muck it up near the conclusion of the film. We'll get to that. But for the most part, it's a strong visual, and it's very, very, very interesting. And a very good choice. Now, this basically sets up the power scaling at this point in the movie as Pikachu's in dirt compared to this god who's way up above, but that he doesn't care to fight them because they're so far beneath his notice. And we get the story of the tower and the three Pokemon, which, okay, how it probably happened, thunder strikes the tower. Jolteon can't die to the electricity. The Vaporeon could, but here's my theory. They were on the top floor. The Flareon cannot die to fire. But when the top floor collapsed, it fell several stories to the bottom of the building, and the Flareon died that way. The other two were burnt to death. The Flareon snapped its neck and all its bones.
It's like where it was more the physics that killed the three.
Yeah.
Because it was...
the fire was probably so hot that it burnt Vaporeon to nothing.
There was always the theory, and it seems like there was a rumor that officially they wanted to make Raikou, Entei, and Suicune the evolutions of the three first evolutions. And it's something that went as far back as Gold, Silver, Crystal.
I wish it kind of did that.
Yeah. You have
Suicune who appears to the girl, because apparently Suicune favors girls. I know the author then used it to bash Misty, but I always liked that Misty caught Suicune, and I always wish they had actually made that canon.
Yeah.
That she had a Suicune in her roster, because it just fits.
Yeah.
With Misty being the greatest water-type Pokemon master of all times. Because she's the only female traveling companion of Ash that's worth dirt. All the others, they were just cheap copycats. And whatnot, and were never as interesting.
So,
except for the one Electabuzz girl. She was the only original one.
Yeah.
I like her. She was funny. And I wish they had brought in, like, Pokemon Baseball or something, or Pokemon Tennis, as an actual, like, Pokemon game. I mean, we have Mario Tennis. Why not have that? That would have been interesting.
There was Pokemon Racing.
Nah. Mario Kart wannabe.
Yeah, I know. And here it is. You've got a bit of time that passes.
Charmeleon. Real quick. Charmeleon ends up scared of Cross and gets beaten. How I would have probably staged the scene was Charmeleon starts to get too brutal on Incineroar, who's basically starting to go, okay, time out. And Ash then realizes Charmeleon's going too far in his anger, holds him back, like tells him to back off. Charmeleon kind of hesitates and looks at him annoyed. And then Cross goes, knocks out Charmeleon and gets a tad brutal with him. And afterwards, Ash blames Charmeleon. Charmeleon blames Ash. and thus they have a character arc between them.
So you have
But that doesn't happen.
you have Charmeleon beating on Incineroar, and after a bit of time, you have Incineroar that uses its ability to overwhelm Charmeleon. And then you have Ash that doesn't take the loss very well because in his mind, it seems like Cross was proven right. And Ash gets really upset.
And the entire middle arc doesn't go anywhere except a shitty dream phase that could be clipped out. And that's basically forgotten in the next minute. Almost. I hate the dream phase.
I don't mind it. Sure, the dream phase was to cover Ash needing to learn his lesson.
Yes, but that's what the whole movie is for. Like, there shouldn't be just a dream phase. Oh, I guess I was wrong for back there. Now my character arc is complete halfway through the movie. Like, no, he should achieve it at the end, not in the middle.
I'm aware of that.
The entire dream phase is the worst part of the movie. It's unwatchable.
And then, time moves on, you have the Bye Bye Butterfree episode.
Which is just done as a, oh, right, we have to get rid of this Pokemon. Wait, come on.
As much as some scenes in here is done better than in the anime,
the animated series took its time to properly weave a goodbye, and it was very emotional. Here, it's just treated as an afterthought. Oh, right, let's get rid of this Pokemon. Like, that's it? Just, oh, right, whatever? Sorry. Like, this is a good movie, but that part's just, oh, come on.
It because Butterfree outlived its usefulness in the series, the creators wanted to try and imitate that episode, and that episode was better done in the anime than in this movie.
We get Raikou appears for 2 seconds. That seemed to have been cut.
Yeah, even with Suicune and Raikou don't play as much of a role.
A shame. They should have been brought in for a role. Maybe this movie was missing an Eboshi type character who wants to hunt them down and maybe catch them or kill them or something. I'm just throwing an idea. Then again, the old man with the beard should have been an antagonist.
We're getting to that. Here it is. They continue their journey towards the mountain.
They run into that bearded freak.
Yeah. Admittedly, when I first watched it, I didn't trust him. I thought he was Marshadow in disguise.
That would have been interesting.
And then they arrive at the mountain peak.
Oh, real quick, on a lore note, Rainbow Feather can make the Rainbow Rock shine, and the Rainbow Rock is apparently linked to Ho-Oh's own birth. It's implied. Which, that's interesting. So the rock is sacred.
Yeah.
And it's a frequent nesting spot for Ho-Oh. So it's very, there's a great deal of power and energy in it. Now, to my mind, that brings up the question, then who created Ho-Oh? Well, it's probably Mew, given that's the Pokemon god. I'm not even going to count Arceus. Arceus is Mew's, female dog, so to speak.
Yeah. And then you have Cross that re-challenges Ash. You have Charmeleon that evolves into Charizard.
Yeah.
Charizard beats Incineroar. I mean, type advantage, flying against fighting.
Although this seems an afterthought on the creators' parts.
Which, it's a pity.
And they're like, oh, right, weren't we supposed to give an arc? Oh, right, let's have a fight.
You then have Cross that steals the Rainbow Feather, darkening it, going to...
Marshadow goes to grab it. Then we're treated to the Pika God moment.
You have the battle between Marshadow and Pikachu, where Marshadow wants to try and get the power of the feather.
Well, he has the power of the feather.
Yeah. You have Pikachu that fights it.
And he's of even greater power.
You have, controls all the surrounding Pokemon.
Ash dies.
Ash takes a hit for Pikachu.
Yeah, again.
Ash dies.
Revived by Ho-Oh.
Ash gets another feather and lightens the rock. Then you have
Mars Shadow disappears, which could have been used as a backup, like pilot of sorts for the sequel movie where it comes back as a main villain again.
mm-hmm. and,
Uh,
and then you have Ho-Oh appears, and then you have
the fight between Super Saiyan Pikachu and that little bitch Ho-Oh. I'm just saying the way the scene is shot.
You then have it finishes up at the Pokemon Center. The three main characters going their own different ways.
Although at the Pokemon Center, the way they drew the smiles on Ash and Pikachu, they look drunk. Like after a fight with a god, they're drunk. Okay. Yeah, okay, I'd be tempted to drink too, but actually, what's the drinking age in the Pokemon world? Okay.
I am going...
Whatever it is, Gold cheated. Those rules and has taste booze.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, which you mentioned Arceus earlier. I will agree with that because Arceus has not shown the amount of power that
Ho-Oh just did in this movie. That said, the problem is the main point in the problem with this film, outside the one dream phase that takes up way too much time, is Pika God. And this was the problem in the Mewtwo Strikes Back movie, where Pikachu played more a Jesus role, and in a lot of movies. Ironically, Pokemon 2000, Pikachu is written down a little, so that Zapdos is more powerful than him, so that when he does try to electrocute Zapdos pretty much with a Thunderbolt, the response from Zapdos is not even to respond at first, then he just electrocutes Pikachu basically with a Thunder Wave that faints Pikachu instantly. Because that puts the power in context. But the problem with this movie is they fell back onto the Pikachu as the most godlike, powerful entity in existence. More powerful than Mew, the 5 legendary birds, the legendary dogs, Arceus, and Goku put together. And I'm just saying, sometimes they write it that way.
I partially don't deny it, but it does seem like Pikachu does get a lot of favoritism. I mean, I understand this movie was about the bond between Ash and Pikachu, but they needed to play down a bit more Pikachu and play up a bit more Ash.
And maybe Charizard and Ho-Oh and even the dog. Well, the dogs were written at the proper level, but Pikachu acted like a Pika-Sue. Mary Sue, Pikachu.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And it's like Mr. Cross wants used Lycanroc. God, that Pokemon isn't that good.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, that's where Pikachu, there's lore inconsistency.
Yeah, it's like power scaling that Pikachu needs.
Yeah, and the thing is, storyline-wise, I'd say, like, given everything, not counting the Pikachu moments, I would actually say that Pikachu is probably not as strong as Gold's Pichu or Red or Yellow's Pikachu's.
I agree with you there.
But that said, it should be written right below their levels because it is a special Pikachu. I'm just saying that having that Pikachu electrocute something like a Sandshrew or Sandslash or even take on Ho-Oh is going too far. Because bear in mind, in the original anime, and this is kind of consistent in the first 2 movies, Charizard is Ash's strongest Pokemon. And like having a random Arbok take down Charizard is just insulting. And the other, now, since they couldn't write him as a god, literal god in the first movie, they ended up writing him as Jesus in that movie. But the thing with Charizard is he is Ash's strongest.
Yes, I admit that ending was a little rushed. That the ending is rather...
And they could have had like all 3 or 4 trainers use everything they've got to distract Marshadow while Ash plucks the feather from it. And, well, you can still have that end scene revival thing, but where Marshadow's maybe punished for what it has done.
It's a situation where I don't know if it should have been more or less Miyazaki.
It should have been more Miyazaki. I don't know why you'd say it needed to be less. If it was more Miyazaki, evil would be punished and good would be triumphant. And you would see the actual hero, in this case Ash, have to use cunning to win. not rely on a god to overpower the other near god entity.
Okay.
Because Miyazaki's
so
fond of cunning.
So a lot more like Princess Mononoke when.
Yeah, there it's cunning and love that wins out. Spirited Away, it's love and cunning. Actually, that's consistent for all the movies. Intelligence and wisdom. When I say wisdom, I mean also love, because it's like knowing how to think with your heart and your head. That's what wisdom is. Essentially, both ideas, like, you have to use both to win.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they should have gone with. But Pika God.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest. That's what turned me off to Pokemon for
yes,
20 years.
The ending is the weak point.
Yeah. Now, I also argue the dream phase is insufferable.
I could see your point of view.
I hated those dream phases in Card Captors. Not like the dream sequence, like when she's predicting the tower. I mean, like her seeing the world without what? Julian, I think it is. It's like, why do we need these amnesiac or unmagical dream phase worlds? Like, it's just you trying to say, I am an artiste, when really you're just an unimaginative bore.
I can see your point. I like this dream phase. However, it is a bit misplaced. And that it's like...
I think I've only seen it done well maybe once or maybe twice.
Mm-hmm. This dream phase shouldn't have been in the movie.
And it shouldn't have been about 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
So let's rate this movie. I'm going to rate it a probably 2.2.
I'm going to actually rate it.
No, I mean, like, okay, that sounds like 2.5. I mean, 2.1. Sorry. My mind went blank. 2.1.
I'm going to rate it a 3.
I see why.
The visuals and the art is very well done. Oh my
gosh, that's a whole 1 star in of itself. The animation and the art is so freaking beautiful. And the music is really well done. Although they kind of turned the music off at the end, and it's just, no, you had a strong soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was they had quite a bit of it could have been thrown away, and there was about half an hour to 40 minutes that could have been shaved. But I think that don't shave off that time, replace it.
Mm-hmm.
Although this movie is not the zero that the second one is.
Oh yeah, as much as there are some elements or characters that I like in the second movie, in the sequel to this movie.
The entire stepdad or whatever arc.
There's they were doing too much.
Yeah. Here they kept it on the leads. I just wish there was more done with Charizard and the legendary dogs, and I would have liked to see Gary actually show up. You could have replaced the girl with the ugly haircut and the one guy with the glasses. You could have replaced them with Gary, and you'd have had that old relationship between the two.
It's like, and I'm glad that
the movie's though really good.
The two characters also have backstories that they covered.
Yep,
which gave them motivation.
Absolutely, this is probably the best Pokemon movie there ever was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It gives hope.
Yeah, and you know what? We've got a 2 point.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I said 2.1, but I will be coming back to rewatch this movie in the future. I know that.
Mm-hmm. And as much as you gripe about some elements and you wish they did other literary choices,
it's a good movie.
It's a good, solid movie.
Yeah. Which is more than what can be said for most previous Pokemon movies, where, like, outside the Pokemon Jesus thing, Mewtwo was a solid movie, just in that Mewtwo and Mew's arc. Well, Mew is more a mentor in there, but Mewtwo's arc from wounded individual who. Now, I actually, real quick, I hate that stupid dream phase of me too. Thank heavens the dub cut it out. It's like,
It had no place in the movie.
and he doesn't even remember it. So what's the point? It's essentially the you're my I'm your father's brother's brother-in-law's cousin's former roommate. What does that make us? Absolutely nothing. But the thing with that I liked about Mewtwo, his backstory is like, so you created me, and your experiment is now at an end. What does this mean for me? I have his creators. Oh, this is just the beginning. And when they're actually shaking hands, they look exactly like the madmen committing all the sins in Chapter Black. If you pay attention to the animation cue there, and you actually have Mewtwo staring at them, and no offense, you can feel why you understand why he's horrified. He's like, these humans, they care nothing for me. And he lashes out because he's like, I have to be free. I have to be free. I can't be chained to these people. But he's asking himself, what's his destiny? What is he meant to be or become?
Mm-hmm.
Now, like, that's a very great choice. You look at the second movie. There are good choices made there.
It's more. Second movie is more about Ash.
Now,
Not Pikachu. Ash Ketchum.
What I think that they should do for the second movie is maybe remake it with these visuals.
Yes, because the one thing that they should have done is for Pokemon Journeys, instead of having it continue from the cartoon series, but rather from this movie.
Oh, that would have been good.
Yeah, and
I'd have watched it.
yeah,
well, maybe a few episodes in passing, just in the background while I write. But...
because some of the art from here was brought into Journeys.
Okay, yeah, I know. I've noticed. Well, anyways, I think we've beaten this thing into the pavement. And this review has gone way over time. So, I was hoping it'd be 15 minutes. Not so much.
So there's a lot more to talk about this movie.
Yep.
So
watch it.
So, why don't you like, comment, subscribe? We want to reach 1,000 subscribers so we can release the chapter of a book we're working on. A dark fantasy that takes inspiration from Dracula.
And I will admit, I'm drawing some inspirations when I'm writing my parts from also the Mars Shadow Shadow Feather scenes.
Mm-hmm. You don't like newer Pokemon, but the way Mars Shadow was set up in this movie.
Oh my gosh, I really liked it. I'm like, bring that in to the earlier gen games. Like, I like this.
Mm-hmm.
This movie's really good. Almost even great.
Well,
Toodles!